Hey everyone, Merry Christmas. It's your buddy, it's your pal, Karnik, Star Wars Armada Explained. It's been quite a while since I've done a video. Thank you so much for your patience. People have been asking me, like, are you dead? Did you give up on Armada? And no, it's just been very busy with work, busy with a lot of other stuff. Now that it's the holidays, I had time to actually sit down and update the KARM and make a video, and a lot of stuff has happened since the last time I made a video. We've had Clone Wars released. We've had obviously some big announcements with Star Wars Armada being moved away from Fantasy Flight games to Atomic Mass games. The RNG 1.5 update came out. The FFG forums are shutting down. So much has happened. And I just kind of want to touch on that, why I haven't made videos about some of that stuff. And again, largely it's because of work. But also, I'm just not very good at the whole, I mean, I can talk forever, on stuff. You guys know that. But it just was hard for me to, want to sit down and make a video covering content that a lot of other people were already doing, like Krabak or Steel Strategy or Cannot Get Your Ship Out. Tons of other people had already covered it. I wasn't going to add anything new to it. So I mainly just focused on just making sure I was trying to get the KARM updated to version 1.5, which is released. I just updated the folder about an hour ago. I'll have that all linked out and show that all to you guys. And we're going to go over some of the most important aspects of that update in just a moment. But again, I just want to kind of touch on a few things. As some of you knew, I was going to be running alongside Ian Cross the LVO tournament. That was canceled. So that LVO is not happening for 2021, which is, in my opinion, a good idea. The vaccine, even though it's being released, it's still not going to be widespread, just for the safety of everyone. Ian and I were really pushing the event organizers to be like, hey, this doesn't seem like we can guarantee the safety of our attendees. And finally, they were able to make that announcement that LVO was going to be postponed. So no longer running that. And then obviously the fact that FFG has been gutted. I'm not going to go into super much detail on all that. Just a lot of people from FFG were fired and let go. This includes almost all of their organized play aspects for their miniature games. Almost every single miniature developer was fired from X-Wing, Legion, and Armada. I know that Asmodee made that post about how vital team members were going to be moving to AMG. It was a lie. Only one developer in total opted to go because either Asmodee didn't give them the option, they just let them go, or if they did give them the option, essentially they were taking a pay cut to move halfway across the country. Because the cost of living in Seattle is it's high. It's very high compared to where FFG is, which is in Minnesota. So the developers, they couldn't afford to move their families and start a new life, and to do that, the Asmodee wouldn't give them a pay raise. So it's very frustrating, especially as someone, I love Armada. I mean, I'll keep supporting Armada. I love Armada. I love the game. It's a very balanced game. Does it have some issues? Of course, every game does. No game is perfect. But it's just so upsetting to me, and I wish AMG the best. I've already reached out to AMG, let them know that I'm willing to offer my support, try to help them to the best of my ability. They are aware of that support, which is great. We'll have to see whatever happens with that. But that's enough touching on all that. The final thing is that the forums are closing down for FFG. Most people kind of knew that was coming once they announced the move over. And just largely because the FFG forums are unmoderated. It's gotten a lot of trolls on there, and nobody bans them or gets rid of them unless it's excessive amounts of complaints, and it's just not. They just don't have the time or resources to keep it under control. I don't blame them for shutting the forums down. I just wish that they would just keep them archived so people could still go in, but whatever. So the forums are closing down. My channel is going to keep going. Any of you watching, come on to the Star Wars Armada Discord. I'm there. Lots of other people are there. It's a great place. I know a lot of people don't like the Discord or the new things, and I didn't like Discord initially at first, but it's a great community on there. Just be respectful. Be nice is the rule. But if you do have questions or things, that's where I'm at. You know, I respond pretty much instantly all the time, myself or Dross or some of the other really smart people. And we're all smart, right? You know, I'm not specifically saying, yeah, you guys know what I mean. But anyway, again, just extending a Merry Christmas to you. I think I've gone on long enough. Let's dive into rules and stuff. So, 1.5 got released. That's fantastic. Clone Wars got released. Also fantastic. The 1.5 update for the manual does not include any Clone Wars content. I just haven't had time to sit down and go through card by card for all the Clone Wars stuff because I felt it was more necessary to get the 1.5 and the Galactic Civil War cards updated and done. Because the Clone Wars stuff, for the most part, I know there's some questions about some of those. You know, but for the most part, I wanted to get updated what I had, so that way when I am going through card by card for Clone Wars, I'm not having to cross-check, re-reference, make sure it's updated, etc. That's all done. Clone Wars I hope to have finished by New Year's or very shortly after, since there's not terribly too many cards there. I feel I can get that done. But let's dive right in. Okay, so we've got the updated KARM here, and again, I'll have that all linked for you guys if you want to go look at it. The new 1.5 update, and very exciting. All the changes on the document are listed in blue. You can download this document from the FFG website. And there's a lot, and part of the reason why the 1.5 update took me so long to update and release is because you would think that with the blue text, that would make it easy to know what got updated, right? Well, no, because they actually didn't list every single RNG change with blue text. There's some things that they added or put in there or changed that they didn't put blue text on. And so I had to go through line by line and do a comparison with an old rules reference document with this rules reference document to then update it in my manual. Because my manual, I have everything arranged a lot differently. It still contains all the same words. I didn't take anything out. I just arrange it according to how I would prefer to see it. So it just took time, and I added, oh my gosh, so many more pages and pages of notes because a lot of this updated 1.5 stuff either confirmed rulings I made before, therefore I had to restructure things, or it added new things that I then had to research and verify. But let's dive into some of the biggest things. The biggest couple different things. First of all, defense tokens evade got a big change. So the 1.5 evade, how it works now compared to before, because before evade did not work at close range at all, period. Unless you had Mon Mothma. Well, the developers were like, well, you know what? We need to make this defense token more appealing, try to help out some of these ships that do have this defense token. So evade now works at close range. So at extreme range, so this is the ranges it works at for evade. At extreme range, you cancel if you use the defense token. This is only useful against ignition attacks, so ships with evade against an onager with ignition. If they cancel a die at extreme range, use an evade defense token extreme range, they can cancel 2 dice rather than 1. If the attack is at long range, they still cancel 1 die as per usual. Medium range, it's a reroll as per usual. Close range now, though, also provides a reroll. So medium and close range is a reroll now, compared to, again, before, close range, it didn't help you at all. So this just gives those ships with that defense token more survivability. Now, one thing that they've added as an additional effect for evade is that if you spend and then also choose to discard that evade token, you get to choose an additional die to affect with the evade effect. Meaning, for example, if the attack is at long range and you spend and then also discard the evade token, you cancel 2 dice. This only works if the attacking ship is a larger size class than you are. So, for example, if you're a small ship being attacked by a large ship, you could spend and discard that evade token, as long as it's not accuracy, and you would be able to cancel 2 dice at long range rather than once. But if it's a small ship against a small ship, you cannot spend and discard to affect additional die because you're the same size class. Okay? Perfect. a lot of people have been asking me, how does this new evade change work with Mon Mothma or Id Inversio? Because Mon Mothma allows you to cancel a die at medium range, and Id Inversio allows you to cancel a dice at close range. So per Mon Mothma's FAQ, the die that so when you spend the evade token, you're choosing to either resolve that effect or you're using a card effect. It's not both together unless they explicitly say so. Meaning that if you are at medium range and you're a Corvette, let's say, against a Star Destroyer, you're at medium range and you have Mon Mothma equipped as your commander, when you spend and discard the evade token, you would be able to cancel a die at medium range. You would be able to cancel 2 die because, again, if you're discarding against a larger ship, it's 1+1. This does not also give you reroll. Some people are like, oh, the evade effect typically allows rerolls. Mon Mothma gives you cancel, so you can reroll and cancel dice. No, 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 no. Again, FAQ is specifically clear. When you use Mon Mothma's effect or Id Inversio's effect, it's an alternate way of resolving evade, not in addition to. So you can either re-roll or you can cancel. You cannot do both. Otherwise, with Id Inversio, if you discarded that defense token against a larger ship, you would be able to re-roll 2 die and cancel 2 die, and that would just be so ridiculously overpowered. It would make Brunson look tame in comparison. And as you already know, Brunson is already really strong. If that was the case, Id Inversio would have shot up to 15 points for her card. So again, for Id Inversio specifically, to use an example, when you're at close range, if you spend the evade defense effect, instead of re-rolling a die, you can cancel a die. And if you choose to discard that evade token, again, it only works against larger ships, not against squadrons. You can cancel 2 die instead of re-rolling the die. Does that make sense? I think you guys are following along there. If you have questions, again, ping me, leave comments. I can explain it. I do highly suggest reading the KARM entry I have in the Armada rules reference that I have here, because it will give examples for you, and you can find those defense tokens if you do a Control F search. Just look up Iden; it should pop up right up there. Okay, so that's one of the big changes. The next one is pass tokens. So 3 cards explicitly have been banned competitively, not casually, competitively. Strategic Advisor has been banned. Bail Organa, the officer for Rebels, has been banned. And Governor Price for the Imperial has been banned. And, I mean, anyone who knew when these cards were released, as soon as they were released, were like, these cards are not going to stick around long term for the game. It's not healthy for the game. And as immediately we saw, some game mechanics from this was being abused. You only ever saw Strategic Advisor getting taken on large ships, and it just wasn't healthy for the game. And I'm glad that they recognized that and removed those officers from competitive play. You can still play them casually. You can still play them in casual games. But by and large, most people only play with competitive rules. So you typically won't see them terribly too often, unless you let your opponent know and your opponent is okay with you bringing those cards. So don't no longer bring Strategic Advisor, Bail Organa, Rebel Officer, or Governor Price. Instead, now we have the pass mechanic of the game. How does the pass mechanic work? So, just to make sure I'm not messing this up, I should have this out. It's just right here, though, to remind me. Handy dandy Clone Wars rules thing. On the back, it gives you an abbreviation about how it works. So for pass tokens, or actually not this one. That's weird. It should give you abbreviation, but it didn't. So for pass tokens, essentially, do you have more ships than your opponent? You don't get any pass tokens. Do you have the same number of ships as your opponent? Don't need to worry about pass tokens. Do you have less ships than your opponent? You get 1 pass token per ship that your opponent has more of than you. So for example, if I have 3 ships and my opponent has 5 ships, I get 2 pass tokens. Now, if I'm first player, you automatically lose 1 pass token as first player. But if you're second player, you keep both pass tokens. Why is that? First player is already extremely strong, and so this is to prevent first player in most situations from being able to get what's called a last first. Essentially, unless I just outright have more ships than you. And essentially it just means that I just can't come in, get the last activation, and immediately next turn get my first activation, and just rip and blow apart your stuff. So the pass tokens try to help alleviate that a little bit if I have less ships than my opponent. Now these pass tokens can only be spent once, period. Once you've spent one, it's discarded, it's gone, you don't get it back. So you need to be very careful and selective about when you want to pass your turn or your activation, so you're not wasting these essentially chances of being able to close on your opponent and be able to be on equal footing for at least a round. So typically you'll see, these are usually spent in like turn 2 or turn 3 to make sure that you're trying to get that your ships in range without overcommitting or activating too soon, etc. Regardless if you're first or second player. But again, to go specifically over it, again, you get a pass token if you have lesser ships than your opponent. If you're first player, you start with one less. If you're first player, you need to activate one of your physical ships first before you can start using pass tokens. You can't just immediately pass. This is for first player only. Second player can still use a pass token without having to activate a ship. But specifically for first player, as it says here, if they have activated at least one ship and they have fewer unactivated ships remaining than the second player. So again, restriction for first player, you need to activate one ship first, and then only if you have less ships activated than your opponent can you pass. And when you do pass, you can't go, I pass and I pass and I pass and I pass. It has to be, for first player, I activate a ship, I pass, I activate a ship, I pass. It can't be consecutive passing. You still have to activate a ship in between pass turns. Still the same, most of the same restrictions for second player. So second player may pass their turn if they do not have more unactivated ships than the first player. So if the first player has 5 ships and second player has 3, first player activates a ship, and then you a second player can be like, I pass. You don't have to activate a ship first, like how first player would have to. And then second player activates a ship, and then you would have to activate a ship as second, and then he activates his third. You can pass again, and then at that point your pass tokens are gone to second player. So that is in a nutshell, that's pass tokens. If you still have, again, questions, go into the KARM. I have more examples in there. I'm not trying to spend too long on all this stuff. It's a lot already. Some changes to how huge ships work. Again, there's a whole section in there now. So before, with the RNG, not only did you have to have the RNG, but you had to have like the 15 different booklets everything came with, because there's rules in all those booklets for all the expansions. A lot of people don't realize this, is that there would not be rules in the RNG, because the rules would be in the booklet that's given to you, which acts as RNG. So a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know where this rule is. I can't find it. I'm like, well, did you check your booklet that your ship came in? No? Well, it's in there. Now it's all in the RNG. Thank goodness. Because it definitely made it hard even for me. I had to bring all this stuff with me when I went to judge events. I had like a big binder full of all these stupid booklets. The SSD also no longer gets a pass token. Not natively anyway. A lot of update. Oh, so one thing, I'm going to take credit for this. We finally have updated wording on how line of sight works with shield dials. There's a whole 3-section subsection there about how line of sight works with obstacles and shield dials. Dust clouds went from like a short paragraph to 3 paragraphs, all because I submitted a list of questions about a year ago to the then Armada developers and said, hey, here's all this crap that your RNG conflicts on and doesn't make any sense on because it says 2 different things. And then for dust clouds, here's all these scenarios that like we know the rule book isn't clear on how this works. So they've updated how line of sight works. They've updated how dust clouds work. Again, they've added so much more because I was so meticulous in pressuring them, being like, we need answers to these because the game doesn't work in these specific instances, and people are trying to break the game because it's not in the rule book. So you're welcome. What can I say? So I am gonna take pride in some of that. Yeah, you can see all that right there on the screen. Dust fields went from one tiny little rinky-dink paragraph to three. They didn't include everything that I wish they would have had, especially like concerning like exogorphs. There's still some you'll find in my document going over that. But it includes a lot of other things. We went over pass tokens. And oh, of course, one of the biggest things for upgrade cards is the fact that card sizes change. They're no longer the tiny cards. They're these big Terra size cards now. If you got the upgrade card pack. And a lot of these cards now have these weird, colors on them now. There's a blue on the left-hand side, red on the right-hand side of these upgrade cards. What does it mean? Well, some cards now have what's called a ready cost. So before in Armada, if you exhausted a card at the end of the status phase, you just would unexhaust it, no problem. Some of the older cards and many of the new cards from Clone Wars have what's called a ready cost. So on the left-hand side of a card in the blue background, you will see that an upgrade card may start with some, either some tokens or command dials, and it starts on that card. And then, like, if you use a card or use that ability sometimes, it will exhaust that card. But in the status phase, that card does not automatically unexhaust and ready itself. Some of them still do. And it shows that, there's two different icons that show that. There's a non-recur and a recur. So if they have a recur icon, which is the arrows that keep going continuously, it means it automatically readies itself. You don't pay a cost for it. But if it has a non-recur, which is just a single arrow, which is what you'll see here, it will show that you need to pay a cost of either a command token, either specifically that token, or if it's just any command token, there's a new symbol for that as well. So in the status phase, in order to ready something like electronic countermeasures now, you need to pay a repair token cost. So this repair token either needs to be on the ship, or if one of the cards says that you can use this as a way to refresh it, etc. But for the most part, it's a built-in token mechanic that you just can't stack up and use ECM forever. You got to have a plan for how you want to keep refreshing it. So it's just adding some intricacies into the game to try to help balance some cards and not just make them auto includes. Some of them still will be, but now you have to have a plan for about how you want to keep trying to reuse that card. So that is, what a ready cost is now, what the blue and the red backgrounds are. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, intel got changed for squadron keywords. So intel before, if the squadron had intel, if it got at distance 1 of enemy squadrons, it would give them all heavy. I don't know why. So this has been a complaint of the game ever since intel came out, was that intel just allowed you to completely ignore enemy squadrons and just go kill capital ships, and there's literally no way you could ever stop them. They did release advanced transponder net, but that's still, you couldn't take that on every ship. The range was still limited. The developers were finally like, okay, we hear you, we understand, we need to change intel. So they've changed it now. It doesn't give enemy squadrons heavy. It gives friendly squadrons grit, which, that's great. That's fantastic, because grit just means that if you're only being engaged by one enemy squadron, you can still move away from them. You still can't attack enemy ships like what intel allowed, but at least you can reposition and do something different. But again, if you're being engaged by 2 enemy squadrons, you can't move away. But this change is great because it's going to allow smaller ships to bring a fighter screen and not have that fighter screen just not do anything for them. So you can still bring This gives more prevalence for, you know, medium wings, smaller wings. You don't have to bring a full 134 points of squadrons to be effective anymore. Speaking of squadrons, you can only bring 4 unique squadrons with defense tokens now. Thank God for this change. Why is that? Because players would only ever bring 8 squadrons, and they were all with defense tokens typically. You could bring 134 of squadrons, with all of them with defense tokens, and it just took forever to shoot them all, kill them all. It led to some compounding effects where some combos were extremely powerful, and there just wasn't really any drawback to ever bring generic squadrons. Because if a generic squadron would just die in one shot compared to an ace that typically takes 3 or 4 or sometimes 5 shots to kill, why would you ever bring a generic squadron? So with this change, you can only bring 4 aces with defense tokens. You can still bring unique squadrons that don't have defense tokens, like Saber or Rogue Squadron. Those aren't included in that limit. But if a squadron has defense tokens, you can only bring 4 squadrons of defense tokens. This is great. So we're starting to see all crazy types of list building now, with squadrons, with generic squadrons and rogues. Rogues are making a bigger a bigger appearance now, just because they're expensive. But again, they don't need squadron commands. So we're seeing some really interesting and unique changes with the squadron game, and all this is great. I won't cover too much more into that. Let's see here. And that's pretty much it in terms of RNG. Let's get into some of the major errata. Constantine got an update. He's still not very good. He's better. He's still not good. Ozzel, though. Oh, Ozzel. So Ozzel, you don't need a navigation command anymore to use this effect. It's just you can automatically change speed by 1 every time you're in the determined course step. Great for Ozzel. I've been playing with him a lot. I've always have liked Ozzel. It was just so hard to bring him, just because it was just, all you ever could do if you want to use him was navigate, and it just wasn't. I won't go too much into like meta stuff, but you're gonna see a lot of Ozzel now. A lot of points updates. Some ways that some cards that used to work no longer work. So almost every single critical effect in the game now exhausts when you use it. Not all of them, almost all of them though. So this gets rid of the things like, double tapping Demolisher, where it would shoot out one arc, hit you with APT, shoot another arc, hit you with APT, and it was just, those effects were always so extremely strong. And now, kind of the way they try to help balance some of those effects is that you can only use those cards once now. So I think that's great. It gives you a lot more choice in making sure that you are bringing the upgrade card for what is fitting to your fleet, rather than just always slapping APT on it. And for the most part, a lot of these cards have the same cost, like for the critical effects. Like external racks got a points increase to make it more competitive with the changes of the other upgrade cards. Avenger got nerfed hardcore. I'm not sure how I feel about it still yet. I definitely agreed Avenger needed some more adjustments. This change though makes Avenger, why bring it? That's kind of the response most people have with Avenger now. Just because your opponent, instead of not being able to spend any exhausted defense tokens, now they can still spend 1. And if you're a large ship with Avenger shooting another large ship, they're always going to use brace if they can spend it. And if they've got ECMs, they're always going to brace. So it neutered the biggest advantage bringing Avenger, which was to try to stop other ships from using their brace. And now it can't even do that. So what's the point? Brunson got increased to 9 points. Fantastic. It's still a very strong card. You're still going to see Brunson a lot everywhere. A lot of commanders had points changes, like Sado. Tarkin finally is not super expensive. Riken got bumped up. Demolisher got changed to where you need to be more tactical with how you utilize Demolisher. No longer is it just like I do what I want, easy mode. Demolisher now takes planning, because you can only make one attack in your attack step, then you need to move, and then you can make a second attack. So it still, in essence, works the same way it does before, but you can only ever do attack, move, attack. You can no longer choose to do 2 attacks and then move. So you have to plan about how you're trying to capitalize on being able to get full effect from both of your attacks when using Demolisher now. So, and I like it because that just means that, yeah, you're not setting up for that triple tap from, from last to going in the first and getting, 3 to 4 attacks in, and your opponent can't do anything about it. Tag and GARM got changes to where now you can choose what turns you want their effects to happen on, non-consecutive turns, but instead of being like how tag used to be, which was like turn 3 and 5, which was worthless, now you can choose like turn 2 and 4, or 1 and 3, or 3 and 5, or 6, or whatever you prefer now. Gunnery teams got a change to where you need to resolve the concentrate fire effect now to use it. This card was always just, well, duh, on almost every single large ship that could take it, because there was almost 0 to no drawback by not taking this card. Now, this card requires you to use the concentrate fire effect again, whether that be you just spend a token, or you just spend a dial, or a dial-end token. You gotta bring ships that can either feed your large ship this concentrate fire token, or your large ship has to use a concentrate fire dial in order to get the gunnery team effect now. And again, I think that's a good change because it's going to make other options seem more appealing, like local fire control, putting salvo on your ship, or again, you have to bring things to try to support your larger ships. Mon Caron pretty much got the same kind of deal. You need concentrate fire to resolve Mon Caron now. Ordnance experts, you can only reroll 2 black dice now. You can't just reroll all of them. And yeah, some very other minor changes. I'll end with Yavaris. So Yavaris got a big change, like the biggest change out of most anything. Yavaris can no longer have squadrons double tap anymore. So it's no longer I choose one squadron, it kills one squadron, and it kills another squadron, and then I do this 3 times, and then half your squadron ball is dead. And that's a good change. A lot of people are like, oh, Yavaris is worthless now, but it's like, it had to happen. Because Rebel squadrons were not ever going to be able to be anything different or unique, because if they had a squadron, it always was going to be, well, how powerful is the squadron if it gets to attack twice because of Yavaris? Now, how Yavaris works is you just add a die to whatever your attack is. Are you a squadron attacking another squadron? You add 1 die. If you're a squadron attacking a ship, you can add 1 die. So this still is a good change because it's still giving you a benefit for attacking, especially with bombers, but it's no longer a double tap, with every single one. It's still just the 1 attack period. It still has all the same restrictions before, where the squadrons can't move in Yavaris' activation. So this is definitely going to help Rebel squadrons be more open to new and unique things in the future, whatever that may be. And that's pretty much all the major stuff. I won't go through too much. Not much else really changed. So I won't cover the rest. I've already gone on, I think, long enough in the video. Yeah, so that is most of the 1.5 changes, the major changes. One thing I do want to point out, though, is if you do come into the RNG that I have here, you'll see I have all my notes are in purple. So I've annotated a lot of notes for some of these changes, especially in regards to if you come down to the attack step. I added like a whole couple paragraphs on some of the words that are used in the game that aren't in RNG. I go over a ton of notes on the defense tokens or upgrade or the damage cards. So there's a lot in here to chew through if you have questions, but I think I've gone on long enough about the major things. Clone Wars upgrade is coming, or the content is coming. I hope to have that done by the end of the new year. Yeah, that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the changes, and I know the forums are closing down. I invite you all to come to the Star Wars Armada Discord. Again, you guys are great. If you still have questions, leave a comment. Let me know about it. Otherwise, you guys have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Hanukkah, Easter, Lent, St. Patrick's Day. I don't know what else there is that you may or may not celebrate if you do or do not wish to choose so. Anyway, you guys have a good one. Bye.